So part one, how to craft the perfect offer for a webinar attendee. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we put together an offer that is something that will blow people away, makes you stand out, but that actually fits into a webinar? Okay, so I've got some 3 steps that we're actually going to go through here, and I'm trying to make this super easy for you so that you can use these things. But let's talk about this. So 3 big steps here. 3 big steps. Number one, step one is something I call purple elephant questions. Maybe you've heard me talk about these if you've been on any of my recent trainings, but these are the big things that help my business stand out. In any business that I go into, that I start new, this is what I have to put myself through, even though sometimes it's kind of painful to get these things down. So we'll go through that. 2, we decide on a name that centers around the benefit. Super simple. I don't know if you guys have noticed this yet, but I seem to love 3-word titles, 2 and 3-word titles. If it's a 2-word title, typically it sort of sounds like a 3-worder, but those titles seem to stick out to me for some reason, and they work really, really well for us. Perpetual sales engine, for instance, right? So we're going to decide on a name. After that, we're going to fill out what I call my product planning sheet, aka my offer planner. All right. So first things first, before we get into filling out that sheet, I want to talk about this purple elephant stuff if you happen to not be on the last couple trainings where I talked about this. Let's talk about this. To become a business and have an offer that stands out, you've got to get super clear on 6 things, okay? How many of you, be honest with me in the chat, how many of you feel like you've not gotten really down on what your business does, why it's different than other people, who you're serving? Who feels like it's still a little bit, not quite there? Not quite there. And it's okay. I'm not going to call you out by name. But how many of you feel like it's not quite as unique as it could be? It's not aimed at quite the right person? Okay. Now, I got a challenge for you. And just, I want you to do this right now. I want you to get on your calendar, and I want you to put down a date in the next 2 weeks. And if you do nothing else in the next 2 weeks, you got to get this part done. Okay, because if you get this part done, it's amazing how much clearer everything else gets, how much faster everything else goes when you've got an offer that is really defined. Okay, so let's talk about this. 6 things. These are the 6 questions that you got to answer. Who are you wanting to help? And really getting it down specifically. I dive 3 layers deep so that I'm not just saying, hey, I want to help doctors. That's not deep. Okay, what kind of doctors? All right. What are those doctors doing? Get really specific about it. We'll get into an example in a second. What problem do you want to help them with? They've got lots of problems. They got 99 problems. You just got to pick one, right? So what problem do you want to help them with? Help them with something that's big. Help them with something that's bothering them. But what specific problem do these folks that you just said, very specifically, this is who I'm after, this is who I want to help, what are they suffering with? Okay, now here's the exact 5 ways that you want to help them do that. This is sort of the features and benefits of your product. Okay, this is what you're going to walk them through. Next, what's the time frame which they can expect a result if they buy into your product or into your business and get you on board? And then finally, what does it cost for that person to get the result? How much do they have to pay you to actually do that? And then number 6, how do you deliver your help exactly? Okay, now this is important. This is who you are. Do me a favor, set a date on your calendar and just say, I'm going to answer very specifically the 6 purple elephant questions by this date. Now, let's get into just an example of this so you got something to look at. This is my purple elephant branding for serial progress seeker. My name is Ben Atkins. My $1 Million Backpack program, which is my high ticket program, helps doctors and other high level experts who have a business that is making between 300 and 500K to turn that business into a 7-figure business in 12 months. And $5 to $10 million per year in 36 months. Super simple, right? And do it in a way that eliminates the need for a physical location. Make sense so far? I do this by helping the high-level experts. Here's the 5 things. Now, I'm not going to go through each of these 5 things, but there's my 5, sort of, this is how I do this, right? After that, my pricing for this program is $8,000. It's delivered by a 5-week private digital training program, online private mastermind group, and a weekly help session with my team. Is that pretty specific? Is that pretty specific as to who this particular business is helping, how we're going to help them? If you really go through this, this lays out how we're doing it, right? So this is sort of really getting clear on your business, who you're serving, and sort of your flagship program and things like that. But now we got to get into something that I feel like a lot of people really screw up. How many of you all have ever worked with a client or worked with somebody and you feel like you were working for them rather than being a coach, consultant, or selling them a product? How many of you ended up feeling like, whoa, this is way outside of the scope of what I promised I was going to do? Yeah, well, it's because you've not productized what you do. Let's talk about this. This is important. I've seen this about 1,000 times at this point. A coach, consultant, or agency owner doesn't make their service look like a product. They make it a little too much like a service, which means I'm working for you, right? Now, services are big. We all, many of us have businesses with services, myself included, but we want to productize all of them. So here's the thing. You got to make your product or your service look like a product. And you got to make sure that you do this right and you're very defined with it. Otherwise, they're going to ask you to do a lot of things that you didn't sign up for because they're trying to get their money's worth and they don't have any walls to stay in. And they're either going to ask you to do a bunch of stuff that really you didn't promise to do, or they're going to fire you. Okay? They're going to let you go and you're going to get stuck not getting paid, and you're going to get stuck having to go get other clients. So here's the thing. These are the things that you guys have to clearly state. Please make sure you get these down because this is important. After you fill out the 6 questions that we do in the Purple Elephant, to get specific about that, here's how you turn all that into a product. This is the name of my product. You got to answer that. What's the name of your product? Okay, like I said, I like 3-word titles that are very focused on the benefit. Okay, so listen, just to give you an example here, if you go in and you have a product that you're doing social posting, right? Social posting, name it something specific. Make it something that stands out from other people. Make it something that's unique. If you're bundling a lot of your agency services together, make it to be the business growth package. Don't just say, well, we do this, 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 and this. It's a bunch of different services. This is our business growth package, or this is our hyper growth package. Give it a name. Give your thing a name that really focuses on the benefit, okay? So here's the name of the product. Number 2, here's the overall big benefit of it. So very specifically underneath the name, the 3-letter or the 3-word name that you put together, what's the big benefit? And I'll show you how to do a benefit very specifically in a minute. Number 3, here are the 5 parts of that product and the benefits of each. Number 4, this is what happens when you sign up. There's 4 things that happen after you sign up. Make sure you sort of follow this, and I'll give you some examples in a second. This is how long it takes to see a result. I have this broken up into 4 parts too. I'll show you that in a second. Number 6, this is what you do to get started right now. Here's the call to action. Okay, so when we put together a product, the reason I've got call to action in the actual product is because how you onboard, how you bring people into the mix, how you sell them depends on this, and it's got to be a part of the product planning process. So do you guys want to see the actual sheet that I fill out every time I build a new product? Whether it be for an agency, whether it be for a coaching business, whether it be for a consulting business, whether it be for a digital product, you guys want to see this sheet. Give me a yes in the box if you want to see how I do this. Okay. So here it is. Now, I'll give you guys the actual Word document here, and I'm going to give you guys an example of one filled out, of course, so you can see it. But this is it. Name of the product, the overall big benefit. Now, look at this benefit section. I want you guys to focus on this benefit section. The big benefit is, here's your big benefit. Here's the amount of time it takes to achieve it. Here's some things that you hate that you don't want to do. And when I show you the example, that's going to make a lot of sense. Then you put in the 5 to 7 feature benefits of the product or service. Okay, and make sure on number 3 that you understand this. How many of you have started to understand that when I sell a product, each of the actual sections of that product actually kind of stand on their own as their own product? Who's picked up on that? Think about that. You got this big package, this big product that you're putting together, but each of the individual parts of that product, each of those 5 big feature benefits actually look like their own product. If you go back to the beginning of this webinar where I went through all the different sections we're going to tackle on this call, each of those could be their own product. And that's how you want to position it, that you're getting a bundle of things that work together. Okay? So part 4 here, this is what happens when you sign up. So the delivery, this is focused on your delivery, how you deliver it, what they're going to get. This walks them through it. Number 5, this is focused on, these are the results and the timing things. This should be a result, and this is how long that it should take. This is what we expect. And then finally, number 6, you can get started right now by doing this. So let me show you an example of what this looks like. Here's a filled out version of it. Okay? Here's a filled out version for it. Now, what I did was, just to make this a little easier, I filled this out in a way that it focuses on, if I were to build a webinar to sell what you're in right now, which is the perpetual sales engine training, how would I do that? So I think that's, this is all on our minds right now because you guys are actually sitting here watching this training. So you bought it because you saw the value in it. So how would I put together something like that? Well, here's the perpetual sales engine. It's the name of the product, right? Here's the overall big benefit. You're going to be able to get more coaching, consulting, and agency clients in the next 30 days without having to meet with potential clients one-on-one. Okay, so things they hate. Probably the reason you're here is you don't want to do as many one-on-one things. Okay, that's why we do webinars. That's the whole point. 5 to 7 feature benefits. I just linked you to the product page where you can see sort of the feature benefits there because I didn't want to fit them onto one page, make it super easy for you. And then let's get into 4 and 5 because this is important. This is what happens right away when you sign up. Right away, you get access to the sign up page for the live training webinar. Okay, well, that's what happened. So that was that. Part 1, we'll show you the psychology, tech, and traffic strategies behind webinars. That's what we're doing right now. Part 2, after the call, we'll get you all the templates you need to get started fast. That's what's coming next. Part 4, we'll give you feedback on your webinar that you built with our system so that you can dial it in. Having this stuff down before you launch your product gives you clarity on what you're going to actually deliver. If everybody understands that, if you understand that personally, type the number 1 in the box right now for me so that I know that that makes sense to you. Having these 4 breakdowns of what I'm delivering before we start building a webinar is absolutely huge because that's something you're going to get questions on, and you need to know personally how you're going to deliver your product, okay? So, number 5, this is results and timing. This is what I expect of you all. So, I've got to know what to, I've got to have some expectations for the people going through our training or the people that are buying our agency services or the people that are buying into our coaching program. This is my expectations of them and the timing behind it. Right away, you're going to understand the psychology, tech, and traffic of an auto webinar. So I'm going to teach you all those fun things. Right away, that's what you're going to get. That's what you're getting right now. Goal number 1, you're going to be able to set this thing up in the next 2 weeks, okay? Goal 2, you're going to be able to drive your first sales in 30 to 60 days. Goal number 3, you're going to be able to dial this process in and have a full-time sales engine working to drive weekly sales for your business after 90 to 120 days. If you go hard, if you learn everything that I show you on this call and you put it all into action quickly, those are the things that I expect you'll be able to do by the end of this. Does everybody understand here, see why this is so important? Give me a number 1 in the box if you see why number 5 is so important before you get started. Are there any ifs, ands, or buts when I'm creating a sales webinar, when I'm creating a product? Are there any ifs, ands, or buts about what I expect of myself to teach, but also what I expect people to be able to do with it? Those are important. And of course, with this particular product, it's clicking the buy button below. That's going to be the call to action. So let me ask you a question. Using what I've shown you in the last little bit, how many of you can take what you're already selling, but productize it? Productize it. Using this setup and this system, using the purple elephant questions, using the offer planning sheet. Does everybody here see how you can take your services, your coaching stuff, all the things you do, even if there's no deliverables in terms of like a digital product like this, do you see how you can turn anything into a product? Now here's what I challenge you to do. When you fill this out, when you get started, if you're not sure, ask. Send it to us. Send it to us. Here's what I do. If I'm not particularly sure, I ask somebody on my staff or I ask my wife. I'm like, what do you think? These people that I'm targeting, does this make sense? Do you understand all the things that you're getting? And if my wife says, I understand 3 of the 5, what is this? I know I've got to go back and fill it out a little bit more detailed. Does everybody understand that? And then I'll say, okay, do you understand how number 3 fulfills all the things that I'm doing in 4 and 5 with the features and benefits? Pretty simple. If you can write it on a piece of paper like this and you can make it clear, if you can write it on a piece of paper like this and you can make it clear on a piece of paper, do you think it's a whole hell of a lot easier when you get into the section of the webinar where you're pitching your product to put that on a slide? And so that's the key. If you can type it on a piece of paper, you can pass it to a friend, you can pass it to your partner, you can pass it to somebody that's, online like me that would love to look at this for you. If you could write it down on a piece of paper and the offer makes sense and they understand 100% what you do and what you're trying to do you think that's the first step in making sure that they understand when you put it on a webinar? And the answer is absolutely yes. So that's my challenge to you. Get in there in the next couple weeks, go through the Purple Elephant stuff, go through filling out this offer planner, get someone else to look at it and ask them, hey, I'm trying to attract this audience. This is what I'm putting together for them. Does this offer make sense to you? And are there any questions? You do that, you're going to have something that's amazing. So here's my question to you. Does anybody have any questions about what I just showed you? How many of you think that you can go get this done in the next week to 2 weeks so that you can get this sucker going? And the reason this is so important, if you don't have a good offer, there's no reason to build a webinar. Let me repeat that. If you don't have a good offer, there's no reason to build a webinar. You have to have a good offer before you can go in and rock out the actual webinar. Okay. Good. Let's keep going.